And we're live. Okay, so this is Complete Geek, where we talk about everything nerdy and geeky and whatnot. I'm one of your hosts, Whiskey Gamer, and this is my co-host, Violent Desperado. I forgot his name for a second.
You forget my name, guy? Wow. Violent Desperado. Not hard. BB for short. Wait, never mind. We're not thinking that.
BB
Violent Desperado. Yes. We're going with the long version. Keep going.
Well, go ahead and finish. I got something to say. We get done there. Go ahead there, Whiskey.
So we got a couple guests on, as you can hear. One of them is Pyron Hellstorm.
How's it going, guys?
And our other is Lord Nurgle.
Don't forget the chaos got a death and disease there. That's why I'm fighting for this calling BD. Death and disease. Plague Father. They don't call me Plague Father for nothing now. Alright? Rampant. What the fuck's up?
How's it going, guys? Everyone good?
I could be better. It's been a long fucking day.
You could be.
I don't know how many drinks in I am, so we're good, yeah.
12, 11.
I lost count, so that's a good night, right?
All right, so we got a couple topics that we're going to hit off on. Yeah, I think we're going to start out with, and I think this is one that we can all respect and we can all tag in on, 90's nostalgia. Because we've all been...
Considering what am I like the oldest motherfucker here right now?
I'm going to go with yes.
Yeah, I think so. Are you older than Pyron?
Yeah. I mean, y'all are kids from last time I checked.
I get to be the youngest.
Yeah, way to go ahead and toot your own horn there, guy.
Well, is he really the youngest?
I know it's
Yeah, I know, it's hard to believe, isn't it?
I thought Pyron was the youngest, actually. He looks the youngest out of the three of us.
He really does.
The four of us.
I also have the most facial hair, however that works out.
Those are pubes. They just grew in the wrong place.
No, that's him. That's him gluing his pubes to his face.
Tape pubes, even worse.
You.
So I mean, let's go over some of our favorite memories from the 90's. We all remember. So let's think about it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I was just about to say that. Actually.
I mean, we're all on point.
Why did we all go to the same place? Let's be honest here. We all at the same time collectively, and that was not organized in any way, shape, or form. We all immediately went to that in the 90's. Because one, didn't lose my virginity in the 90's, so we're good. But Ninja Turtles, yes, 100%.
Well, that was the show you actually ended up watching as soon as you get out of school, though. I mean,
that show was always on after school.
Well, actually, my after-school show was Power Rangers. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but that came on later, though. Like, early 90's, that was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And
well, Ninja Turtles was it like 89? I think it was like 89 going into the 90's was Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Power Rangers didn't come out until like 93 or 94.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And then Power Rangers was like mid-90's or so. I remember because I was going in from elementary school into middle school whenever Power Rangers was around. So I think I was like 4th, 5th grade, because that was also around the time when we had Mortal Kombat 1 and Mortal Kombat 2. Until I got introduced to Mortal Kombat was whenever I was in elementary school. I know I had terrible parents, obviously.
I think you had good parents. I don't know.
My parents didn't know about the blood code, so.
ABCABB.
I ended up getting the Super Nintendo version because of the lack of play on that one.
Well, the funny thing was the Sega Genesis was actually the most inferior version of the game. I mean, the Sega Genesis ran that game like a wet sock. It looked great on the Super Nintendo, but the only reason the Sega Genesis made it was because ABACABB.
Yep, that's it.
Code.
That's it. Because the guy who had the fucking Nintendo, he was like, oh, well, I got Mortal Kombat. Yeah, but do you have this?
Exactly. I mean, I could talk Mortal Kombat for fucking days, man.
That's a whole subject in and of itself. I'd like to point out, interesting note, that was like Fox at its highlight. Like, Power Rangers came out, and when they had like a season premiere, do you guys remember that it used to come out like at night? Like it had like it was either like season premiere, and then like even Batman the Animated Series, like when they had like a special episode that came out at night, it was like, wait, what?
Yep.
Like out of nowhere, it would just come out in the evening. I remember that, vaguely when I was younger, because I remember when it was the Power Rangers when they ended the which was the Red Ranger, the Yellow Ranger, and the Black Ranger when they left the series.
Oh, when they switched,
when they switched roles with the three new characters. If I'm not mistaken, that was an evening show because it was like the season finale. It was like they were saying goodbye to these three Rangers, and then they were introducing Lord Zed and then a Thunder.
Yes, I remember watching that at night, like being at my friend's house and watching like Lord Zed and being like, this is way more effective because during the day, like it's TV, but at night you're watching that as a kid and you're like, wow, this is actually really kind of creepy. Like.
It felt weird. It always did feel weird. You weren't watching it on Saturday morning or on the morning before school or the afternoon when you came home from school. You're like, it's like at 9 o'clock at night and you're watching Power Rangers. So it was weird to me. There was another. I mean, Fox dominated the 90s nostalgia days, yes, because they had Power Rangers. They had not the Ninja Turtles. They had Power Rangers. They had fucking Batman the Animated Series, which was way beyond its fucking time.
Superman the Animated Series.
They did have Superman the Animated Series. I forgot. Didn't they have the Spider-Man Animated Series as well?
Yes, they had Spider-Man as well, and they had the X-Men.
Oh God, the X-Men. Oh,
which they still have the rights to the X-Men, obviously. But
that was an amazing show. Way ahead of its time.
Incredible show.
Way ahead of its time.
And that's what I'm thinking. That's why I think the current X-Men movies are so successful. Is basically they kind of followed along the same lines of the old Fox series.
Yeah,
but they almost feel like the old Fox series when you just watch it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, there are some deviations, but I think overall, they rode the coattails of it. Like, our generation grew up on that. Like, I mean, you look at all the other series, like, not a lot of people know that there was an Incredible Hulk series, there was a Fantastic Four series, there was even an Iron Man series.
Hey,
I watched them. They weren't that great. X-Men was awesome.
I remember the Fantastic Four series specifically because I remember when what was the fire guy in Fantastic
Human Torch?
Human Torch.
Yeah, Human Torch. I remember him having a relationship with a female Human Torch who got recruited by what's his name, Galactus. Right?
Galactus, yeah.
Yeah, she got recruited by Galactus, and then he was like, "Oh no, our relationship is over," and she was like, "But I'm protecting the Earth. I'll miss you, but I need to protect the Earth." And that's
what was so good about that TV series was that it didn't do so well, so in the end they had to bring in like other characters like Spider-Man and Iron Man and all the other characters to kind of let you know, like, hey, these are interconnected, but it didn't work. But yeah, for some reason it did work with Spider-Man and the X-Men, but all the other series just didn't function.
They had Black Panther on?
Yeah, they introduced Black Panther in that series for one episode, and he took out the
one episode. He was only in it for like 5 minutes.
Okay, but speaking of 90s, let's talk about 90s toys real quick, okay?
Oh God, no, not the 90s toys. Fucking Jurassic Park toys.
Jurassic Park toys, I kind of feel like all those toys inspired Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Well, they pretty much did because it's like they ran out of all these ideas. Like towards the end, it was like, okay, we made reptile, or we made raptors, we made Dilophosaurus and T-Rexes. What are we gonna do now? What if we mix the T-Rex with a raptor? Oh yeah, we'll run with that. And give him horns. Okay, well there's the plot of the new movie.
We're gonna make the raptors like in the army, and they're gonna fight people. Like, give it equipment. Yeah, it's basically the guy that trains it. Flash forward 10 years later, we have a movie with that crap. But he's got a Jurassic Park mug.
This is an original mug from 1992. I've had this since 1992.
Well, what was the other one? The Power Ranger toys were in the 90s, and you couldn't get your hands on a single Power Ranger toy. You had to order that shit, specifically to get it. And back then, we didn't have, in the 90s, we didn't have Amazon and shit. We couldn't just go on to a website and order. No, we had to fucking get the Sears Wish Book catalog and order that shit.
Right?
I was so poor that I didn't have the ability to buy the toys, so I took cardboard and drew out all of the weapons and cut them out so my friends in the neighborhood can play with them. And then we had like extra kids that felt they were left out, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna make up like colors for them. I'm like, you're gonna be like the White Ranger, and you'll be like the Gold Ranger. And then when that stuff came out later, I was like, man, I could have made some money.
Yo, I got to be the shit for a while because somehow or another I got a hold of a Green Ranger. And when I got a hold of the Green Ranger,
okay, first off, let's go ahead and dive into that. Since we're talking about the Green Ranger, why was the Green Ranger cool again? This is a dude that literally didn't show up until like the last freaking minute, and then would come, do one thing, play his little flute, and then save everybody's ass when they didn't need him for like a whole other season. And all of a sudden now they needed him every damn episode, but he was randomly late for whatever freaking reason.
The man was rolling with his own sword. Yeah, son.
He didn't have the coolest sword. I'll give him that. He didn't have the coolest sword.
I think
And like after like maybe 4 or 5 weeks of him being on the show, they were like, "Oh, your powers are evil and you're going away now." I was like, "Wait, what just happened?"
Yeah, I thought that was strange too. At the end, it was like, "Oh, we're gonna get rid of the Green Ranger now. Just kick him off there." And then they had him come back like after a season without him because everybody was like, "Man, this is fucking bullshit. I'm not watching this shit anymore."
yeah, because the Green Ranger
But let's all agree that the White Ranger was
Nuts.
not nearly as cool as the Green Ranger, even though it was the same guy.
Well,
The Green Ranger was cooler.
I will only give the Green Ranger props for one thing, and it's a weird thing to give him props for, but I did like his talking sword.
Yes.
I loved his talking
You mean the
sword.
White Ranger?
Yes,
So,
the White Ranger.
okay, the sword, I'll give you that. Saba was kind of cool. Yes, I remember the name of the sword.
It's been years since I've watched.
It's been years since I've
But you know what?
Actually,
You
no.
know the sword in the first 5 minutes of the theatrical movie.
Right.
They did do that. They were like, fuck this guy. He's done.
The theatrical movie was such a train wreck too. It didn't even make the money that they wanted.
For that movie. I actually own it.
Well, the movie, I loved the movie. I guess as a kid you loved it, but I mean, for the most part, it was actually a pretty terrible movie. And then fucking, I watched it recently, and because my kids watched it, I was like, man, what the fuck did I like about this when I was a kid?
I'm really just impressed.
This is like
I'm really
He-Man, trying to
impressed
watch
that
He-Man
they
now.
put Apocalypse into the Power Rangers movie well before he was ever in, X-Men Apocalypse. I mean, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was amazing. Live news. It does look like a lot of people have said that about him. To tell you the truth, I've seen it, and I see where people are saying that, and honestly, I think that it's okay the way they made Apocalypse look, because if they would have gone, they could have gone 2 ways with this. Either he could have looked absolutely atrociously bad if they tried to make him look like in the comic book, or they could have tried to make him look somewhat realistic. I don't think there was any way to please this one. I really don't.
No. I agree.
I saw they did some makeup. They had like a whole bust of what it would have looked like a little closer to the comic book. And yes, it did look really like the comic, but based on what they were going with for the film, I kind of get why they went with how more, what is it? Oscar Isaac? Is that who's playing?
I don't know who it is.
The guy who played Poe Dameron in Star Wars. I think it's Oscar Isaac. But they kind of wanted to make him at least moderately relatable to the audience, because otherwise, at least for the film, it wouldn't make sense that he would be able to garner people to his cause. Because in the comics, there is no. I mean, you're just kind of afraid of him. Well, this movie had to be at least relatable, and I get it. Not to say it was a good, better decision, but I get it.
I don't remember if it was from the 90's when they actually finally explained Apocalypse's origin, because his origin was unknown for the longest fucking time. But if I'm not mistaken, his origin started out with him being in ancient Egypt. He's actually the first mutant. And it made sense that why he was able to garner people to worship him and treat him the way he was, because he was able to do phenomenal things that people would say is divine. But it's not bad that they did go with a comic book look, but it's not great that they did either. Because I've seen, after seeing Deadpool, we've seen what it can look like if they go exactly with the comic book characters look. Because Deadpool, There was almost no change from that costume.
It was exactly what you saw in the comics, and you know what? It was phenomenal.
But then you got the horrible looking Colossus to make up for that.
No. Let's be real.
He looks more like the comic book Colossus.
Was not bad.
I'll give him that.
Colossus
was a hell of a lot better than the other version.
Yeah, the other version of Colossus was bad.
I would honestly say he looked more like Colossus in this movie than he did in Days of the Future Past, or in what was it? X-Men 2?
Yeah, it was
I
X-Men
think.
2.
In X-Men 2, they only showed him for like a second.
Yeah, he showed up for a second, did his thing, and even in X3, he looked better in this
X-Men
movie
3
than
looked
he did.
horrible. Like, the special effects in X-Men 3 were really bad.
But the only thing that really drove me insane about Deadpool with Colossus is they didn't establish with the audience that Colossus is not always a big walking metal dude. He's always in his metal form in that movie. I don't understand why.
Yeah, I didn't understand why. Although
I guess. Go ahead.
I do feel like at this juncture, and I'm gonna let everyone give their final say on Colossus, but we are deviating from the.
Yeah, we went on a complete
Yeah, we went on.
No, we're still in the 90s here. X-Men was a 90s thing. We're still there.
X-Men was a 90s thing, but that's the thing is that I was getting back to.
Well, if we're talking about nostalgia, I mean, isn't that on the whole realm of nostalgia?
Well, then,
like, this entire movie series is hinging on the fact that us as kids watched that show.
True.
If we didn't, this movie will probably not be nearly as successful.
Shit, I didn't even know what the X-Men were until the cartoon came on. I was like, what? Wait,
Yeah,
this is like a comic book that's been around since like the 70s?
That's the thing is, until the cartoon, I had no idea who the X-Men were.
I think it drew a lot of 90s or 80s and 90s kids into the comics, though, really. Let's be real.
I mean, that's probably the jumping off point for a lot of people. Like, I remember when Spider-Man came out, there was a lot of kids in my school that didn't know about the comics that all of a sudden were like going out and buying Wizard magazine. Yes, that was back when Wizard had a magazine.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was accurate magazine.
You remember back in the 90s, like all of the covers used to have like, because it was Wizard, everything used to have some random part of the cover that looked like it was like a magician, like it had a little blue with the white stars on it. So if you had Spider-Man, there'd be like a part of his costume that was ripped, and it would have the little blue with the stars on it, and that's how Wizard, like, that was a little niche thing.
If we're gonna talk about magazines real quick, let me talk about.
We're not talking about Playboy.
No, I'm talking about the strategy guys, the game strategy guys.
Play games.
You can't. Well, Prima and Brady Games, you couldn't. Back then, you couldn't just go to fucking GameFAQs.com and find all the cheats and find your way through the game. You actually had to figure that shit out, or go spend $20 on a book.
I had the Final Fantasy VII
40, and people were still
guy.
I always borrowed the guides from my cousin because he was that kid that you knew. Everyone knows that kid who got everything.
Yeah.
He was like he got all the game consoles and he got everything he asked for. You're just sitting off to the side. He's like, I fucking hate you.
You mean everybody hates that kid?
There's always that one kid that got everything. I wasn't that one kid that always got everything, but I had a lot of the things that the other kids didn't or whatever.
That sounds a lot like you were that kid.
The thing was, I wasn't the dickhead though that rubbed it in people's faces. Like most of the other kids didn't even know I had the shit, and then we're just sitting there bullshitting. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I got that game. Remember I played that? And they're like, what? You got that game? Like, yeah, I got it a long time ago. It was. I didn't get games, every day. I got games for Christmas. That's the only time I ever got games whenever I was a kid.
See, most of us, we ended up having to rent games.
Oh,
no, I did a lot of that shit too. I did a lot of renting too.
I remember renting games. I remember renting games
gosh,
from PlayStation.
Remember that concept?
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster. That's right. I remember the death of Blockbuster.
I'm gonna date myself here. So, my first major job. So my first job was working at a drive-thru in Burger King, but I didn't last very long at that job because I hated it. My first major job was working at a Hollywood Video, which was like a competitor to Blockbuster Video, but like a lot more ghetto.
Well, and like the only reason anyone ever went to Hollywood Video was like, oh, so I can rent this for 5 days instead of like 1 or 2.
Exactly.
Yeah, I will admit that Hollywood Video was my stopping point, and it was not Blockbuster. Okay, Blockbuster was up the street from Hollywood Video. We went to Hollywood Video. I'm not gonna lie in the least.
So I'll tell you what. So just jumping off point, I applied for the wrong position because I was cocky, and when I read the little online, because that was when they hadn't gone to like internet stuff. So the little kiosk that they had to apply for jobs said like, what do you want to be, like a director or this? And I was like, oh, director, which means I applied for the management position. I didn't know that until I was in my interview, and they were like, you know, your interview, this is for the management position, and I played it off, and I was like, oh yeah, certainly, of course. And I got hired, and then I thought it was because it was like my skills, but it turns out that the guy who hired me was stealing from the company and just kind of wanted somebody who was second in command who wasn't really paying attention. And then that guy got fired, and I suddenly became the manager, and I had no idea what I was doing.
Hey, you guys sounds like me in the real world.
Because I ran a freaking video store for like 6 months, and it was great.
Oh man. So,
I never worked at like a Blockbuster or Hollywood Video. I always worked fast food and server jobs before I went into the military and shit. That's all I fucking did.
So basically, you went from service to service.
oh,
Pretty fucking much. I
Wow.
went from food service, at least.
I feel spoiled. I was actually retail from the beginning.
Man, oh, fuck you. I would have loved to have retail, but that shit didn't pay for shit either.
No, it didn't.
So now that we've deviated, I would like to move into.
I would argue that we didn't.
I would like to move into our bigger topic, which is I think it's pertinent at this moment in time, considering
The
all
guy
that
that was
we've
talking
heard
about being
recently.
soft earlier, he's talking
Yes.
about moving into bigger subjects. Just
Yes.
saying.
Yeah, why does everything have to relate to the penis
Big
with you?
things.
Continue. You're getting sidetracked. Go ahead. Hurry up.
I'm sorry, we just started talking about soft and hard penises, and I got distracted.
Nobody said the word penis. You said the word penis.
Do you want my penis?
I made the mental connection. Very well. So let's talk about Star Trek.
Oh shit.
Let's talk
here we
about
go.
Star Trek.
We're
And
only going where lots of men have gone before.
where lots of men. And I think this kind of ties into our 90s nostalgia.
That's what she said.
Because
Yeah.
because we all have fond memories of say it, anyone?
The Next Generation?
Indeed. The Next
Yes.
Generation with Picard, which was, in my opinion, the greatest captain.
He's also the greatest Professor X ever, too.
Indeed.
He saved
That's
the
right.
universe. Okay? He
Several-
saved time.
Several ways. He saved several universes.
He outsmarted Q. Q.
Well, in that instance, he saved the human race. You know.
Well, I mean, he saved the entire.
Well,
What?
technically, he says
See, I gotta watch what I say
like
here.
God.
Because I am kind of like a half-ass Trekkie because I didn't get into the Star Trek stuff until much later in my life, around, where I'm the age
Voyager?
that I am
Is that
now.
or Deep Space Nine?
Are you saying
I was a Voyager guy. A lot of people laugh at me
Oh my
because of that, because I was more into Voyager. But that was because of 7 of 9. And we all know why 7 of 9 was awesome.
Yeah, she was hot. I bet you had a side thing for Janeway, didn't you?
Oh my God! I did. I'm not gonna lie. I had a crush on Janeway.
I mean, she was kind of strong and intimidatingly hot. So.
Oh, and that half Klingon chick. I can't remember her name.
Yeah, but didn't
The
she
Klingon
die?
chick, she was kind of cute too.
Didn't she die?
She was a
She died,
bitch.
yeah.
The Klingon one. Oh, that was in Voyager, right?
Yeah, she was a Voyager. She was
Yeah.
like one of the main characters on that show. They had plenty of
Didn't
episodes
she
about her.
smash Tuvok?
No, Tuvok was a Vulcan
Yeah,
and a dude.
yeah. I don't know if you heard what I said.
Wasn't that didn't Next Generation have a Vulcan chick in place of like Aurora?
Are you thinking of Enterprise?
Or what? No, I might be thinking of Enterprise.
Enterprise had a half Vulcan female, yeah.
I remember there was one that had a Vulcan female. It was like
That was
basically
Enterprise.
the
That was
character with
definitely
Aurora.
Enterprise. Yeah, she was actually.
I gotta watch my tongue because my wife is an actual Trekkie. She'll come storming down in about 5 minutes to fucking correct my ass.
So, I have fond memories of Next Generation. I also have fond memories of the super late night replays of original Star Trek because they would
Some
do
of
2
those
episodes
were-
back to back. They were pretty
You know,
bad.
Well, they were bad, but you know what? I never actually sat down and watched the original series that much. And then one night, my wife found trouble with tribbles and made me sit and watch it with her.
God,
So
that
it
was
was
an
great.
incredible
Okay,
episode.
before we move on, can I just express that I'm pretty sure Trouble with Tribbles was the first episode I ever saw, and it was so impactful. Like, I mean, it shouldn't be, but for some reason it was. That when the Deep Space Nine redid that episode,
Thank you. Yep.
it was so profound for me that it was almost like, oh my God, I remember watching this as a kid with my dad, who was like a huge Trekkie, and being like, it didn't change anything. It just went beat for beat, like as if they were experiencing it. Like,
Because
that, it doesn't get more nostalgic than that.
I never watched that episode from DS9. I didn't even know that one. Because I never actually watched all of DS9. Everybody always told me, oh, just avoid DS9. It was just a fucking soap opera.
It is.
I'm like, okay.
Gene Roddenberry was more,
Paul.
Gene Roddenberry was
That's
so
when it started
behind
going downhill.
Space Nine. Well, I'm sorry.
Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, Deep Space Nine was worthless.
What?
Worthless. The only episode of Deep Space Nine that I ever enjoyed was their flashback to Troubles with Tribbles. And then otherwise, I despised it. I hated it.
I watched Space Nine.
But I just vaguely don't remember much of the episodes. All I remember is the characters, because I remember it had Quark as a normal character, and it had Worf as a mainstay character, and that's all I can remember about it.
Deep Space Nine was what Roddenberry had initially envisioned as kind of a sequel to the original series. The original series was a ship out in space, lost. Basically they were traveling the uncharted space. Deep Space Nine was supposed to be a space station that was maintained in deep space, and it would interact with all these other things. So basically you had this point where all these other things can converge on this area because it was a space station. So the Next Generation was kind of just a cash cow that really worked. But Deep Space Nine was really what Roddenberry wanted to jump off. But the reason that Deep Space Nine didn't work was because Roddenberry died right after the first season came out. So the first season was like pure Trek, and then right after that it was like, what do we do?
Well, they've been trying to figure out what to do with Star Trek ever since Gene Roddenberry died. I mean, look at where we're at now with it. The
reboot?
Abram reboots, And don't get me wrong, those movies they're not bad. They got me to go back and start watching the old Star Trek stuff. But I have to admit, especially after seeing The Force Awakens with JJ's nonsense, there's just something off about them. I don't like them. I mean, the first movie was good, but after that, I was just kind of like...
So I'm going to throw this out there. So I think personally, JJ is really good at setting up a story, but not necessarily following it through. So, I think his introduction to the Star Wars world was, with the time travel and doing all that stuff, was really good. Especially because if you wanted to keep it interconnected, that was great. And I think The Force Awakens in itself was... a lot of people say, it tied into New Hope. It was kind of a rehash. A New Hope itself was kind of a rehash anyway. I kind of think that's the point. I think that's basically what JJ can do. He can't really follow up on that. And I think whoever follows up on it, I think we got Ryan Johnson, who's doing the next episode. We're not going to get too much into Star Wars, but that being said, I think that I have a feeling that whatever's going to happen in the next Star Wars movie is going to really challenge what you thought happened in the previous film.
Well, the problem I had with, I know you don't want to get into Star Wars, the problem I had with Star Wars Force Awakens is this movie played itself so safe that if it had played itself any safer, we would have had people begging for safe spaces. I mean, it was that bad. I mean,
I agree with you, but I think that's why the next movie is going to go really hardcore into some unsafe zones and then make you challenge what you actually saw in the first movie.
Gentlemen,
yes.
save it for the next episode. Our next episode is Star Wars. I don't want us to dig too deep into the Star Wars right now, so let's bring it back to Star Trek.
This is a preview for next time.
Previews. Teasers.
This is a trailer. Alright, so let's jump back to Star Trek. I'm just gonna go ahead and say, like, I am not a super Trekkie. There are people in my family that are super Trekkies, and I personally enjoyed the first J.J. Abrams film, Star Trek. I mean, I guess people call it Star Trek 10, Star Trek X, whatever. I thought it was good.
The rewrites. That's basically what
it had flaws. I think somebody pointed out to me the other day that now Kirk was born in space, and that changes part of his personality because he wasn't born in Iowa, so he was born in space. And I was like, I don't really see that as being such a huge deal, but I guess Kirk fanatics found that to be a big deal.
Well, let me just at least say one thing, and this is why I was actually into the reboot of Star Trek when they made it, was, one, the imagery. They actually made that ship, the inside of that ship, look like it was the inside of a fucking ship.
Yeah,
right.
Like when you went into the engineering decks, you saw nothing but piping and nothing but an industrial area.
Yeah.
It looked a little bit cleaner. I mean, having served on ships before in my past in the Navy, going into the engineering spaces, that's what it looked like. It looked like an actual, industrialized plant with piping everywhere.
Yeah,
When you look at the series, like Next Generation, they're like in an office. It just doesn't look right.
Super pretty, and you're like, that's not how things work.
No, that's not how it's done, and that's one of the things I liked about it. Was he made the ship look like it was more functional, look like it was an actual ship.
Let's not forget the fact that hull damage equated to hull damage. It wasn't just shaking of the screen, basically.
Yeah, let's just shake the fucking camera for a little bit, and everybody act like everything's going to hell.
Or the fact that
Jim. The ship's gonna blow.
Oh, and that's the other thing I gotta admit, is the people that they had come in to take over the new roles of these characters. Like, I wasn't very fond of the guy that took over the role of Spock. I wasn't fond of him. But Chris Pine, I thought he did a pretty good job as Kirk. He wasn't the Kirk. You'll never get past William Shatner. But what's his name? The fucking Shaun of the Dead dude.
Oh, the guy who plays Bones?
Yes.
Yeah.
When he took over the role of Scotty, he did a great job as Scotty.
I agree. He did a fantastic job. And you know what? I want to really give credit to Carl Urban.
Oh yes, Carl Urban was awesome, but he's awesome in everything.
Carl Urban literally is. I mean, like I put him in the category of the same. I put this guy who he was in the Harry Potter series. He was in Batman, all 3 movies. Oh God.
Yeah, this is bringing back more 90s nostalgia stuff, but Carl Urban was also in the movie version of Doom, which was the only reason why you would have watched that movie is because Carl Urban actually made it watchable.
Or The Rock. I mean,
his role
as that movie just died at the end of. Oh God. I don't want to get into that.
The only good part of that movie was the first-person perspective.
The first-person mode!
It was the best part of the film.
Now you're oh my God.
It made you enjoy it. Because coming from a guy like me, okay, and I know this is, like I said, we're going off topic here, but coming from a guy like me who grew up in the 90s just playing nothing but Doom. That's all I played when I was a kid. And then seeing, Doom 3, and then going and seeing the movie Doom, I was pretty fucking pissed about how they fucked up the entire story.
What was that movie that came out not too long ago? That was in the whole movie was first person.
Hardcore Henry.
Hardcore Henry. Listen, if Doom had been done that way, with respect to the story, granted it's Doom, but if respect to the source material in that method, I think it would have been amazing.
Would have been incredible.
Well, what really agitated me about Doom was, especially because this movie came around the time that Doom 3 came out,
Was it The Rock had bulging muscles? Yeah, I know that.
I know, you know.
I honestly thought that The Rock was going to be the main character of the film, personally. I was kind of surprised he wound up being the villain. But the thing that really got me about...
Everybody off.
The thing that got me about the movie Doom is there was so much fluff left behind that they could have made a good movie out of. There's so much great story actually in Doom. And people go, wait a minute, there's a story in Doom? Yeah, there was a story.
Yeah.
In Doom 3, they continued on with the story from the original Doom, which was, hey, we're fucking with interdimensional travel and teleportation. You know, kind of like Event Horizon. Anybody ever remember that movie?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it.
To this day, everybody thinks that Event Horizon was a Warhammer 40K film because of the whole Realm of Chaos thing, and it was kind of like Doom 2, where they teleported this ship from one place to the other, and they're saying, okay, well, what goes in between it? And what was in between it was hell. And that's how it was in Doom. There was so much they could have done with it. They could have made a whole movie revolving around that. And then all hell breaking loose and demons invading this fucking Mars facility, and that could have been the movie. But no,
instead they made a game out of it. Instead they made a game out of it. So is that?
And I swear the guy was aimbotting.
Am I the only one? Am I the only one who's played the game so far? Am I the only one?
The new Doom or the old Doom?
The new Doom.
I've been playing the shit out of it. It's great. I love it.
Yes. So let's bring it all the way back down to our favorite topic of the night, Star Trek. And Star Trek, how it relates to Doom. I don't know.
We just managed to do it somehow.
Actually, if you want to talk about what relates to Doom, you can go back. You can thank the movie Aliens for a lot of the first-person shooter stuff that we see today, because Aliens was actually the original inspiration for Wolfenstein and Doom because of the whole corridor fighting thing.
Oh,
that's actually where that all came from.
The idea behind those films was that it was, well, the films leading into the games was that it would give you this idea of isolation. It would give you this, I mean, that's fearful. Alien is scary by itself. An alien chasing after somebody, sure, that's scary. But an alien chasing after a person on a space station where nobody else exists, that's frightening. Like, the entire idea that this thing could be stalking you at any moment, like, that's pretty scary. So that's where a lot of those games get their drive from. Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, like Star Trek is completely different from that. It's not a horror or sci-fi. Like there's sci-fi and there's sci-fi that has that horror aspect to it. Star Trek is very almost like what we hope to aspire to.
Right, it's all about exploration, really. Is what
I don't like to bring. I mean, like we were talking about before the podcast, came up. But one of the biggest things that made Star Trek so popular too is because, given the time frame that the original came out, given the time frame of the Next Generation, and a lot of the subjects they tackled a lot of the social and political issues that were going on in those series, and that made it in a lot of ways for other people able to understand. Like during the times of like the civil rights movement, you had episodes where you had a guy who was half black and half white fighting off a guy who was half black and half white.
Yeah,
and that's another thing.
I think that's probably the biggest thing that you're right, you touched right on it, is that Star Trek kind of had that social aspect to it.
As much as I hate talking about politics, because that's all I fucking talk about in my other streams on my own channel, is all the fucking political bullshit going on in the gaming industry and the movie industry, blah, blah, blah. But the thing that I will say is like Star Trek was very much about being progressive and progression. And one of the biggest key elements of the Star Trek universe, the Star Trek series, was tackling the issue of racism, because that was the biggest subject going on at that time when that movie came out, or when that series was brought out. So it was all about, look, this guy here, he's got fucked up looking ears, and this chick over here's got a fucked up looking face, and we can all get along and work together. It was kind of like the little thing that they were kind of pushing in a lot of the Star Trek.
Well, a lot of people don't understand, a lot of people were kind of pissed with the new movie when they had Spock and Uhura kind of get in a relationship. And they didn't really understand, because they were like, oh, well, didn't Kirk and Uhura kiss in the original series? So the original premise was that it was supposed to be Spock and Uhura, but people were at the time, they felt that, I mean, mind you, this person is not an alien, But in the show, he's playing an alien. So an alien hooking up with an African-American woman was like, I mean, that was beyond anything they could comprehend. It was considered so bad that they couldn't film it. So Kirk was like, well, okay, well, I'll go ahead and I'll take that role. And so William Shatner was like, okay, so I'll do this. And then intentionally, he kept screwing up the takes for two reasons, he said. One, because he wanted to keep kissing Hura. And two, because he was trying to show them that it was, basically he was trying to tell them that it wasn't going to work, and he really wanted them to lean on the original story, but they didn't anyway.
Well, if you look at how it actually turned out, though, it seemed like, okay, Kirk was actually being mind controlled to kiss her. But I guess the point ended up being was that,
interracial kiss on television.
Exactly.
Anyway.
That's where I was going to get at. That's what that wound up looking at. If it hadn't been Kirk and Aurora being the interfirst interracial kiss, it would have been Leonard Nimoy and Aurora.
Right.
And it would have looked right. It wouldn't have been so impactful on people because they would have been like, oh, well, it's just an alien and a black chick, instead of it being, now we're actually a white dude and a black chick. And back then, that was like taboo as fuck, was interracial relationships. That was like not allowed back then, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you're absolutely correct. And a matter of fact, I mean, like, I talk to my like I love my grandparents, but my grandparents are a little bit racist to the point to where my mom has straight up told me that if I showed up at the house with a black girl, that there would be questions asked, and my response being, well, then there would have to be questions asked because it's not to me it's not an issue, but to them, to the old folks, it is. It's a big deal.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest things that changed with generational, generations we aged was, we, the younger generation, as we got older, we learned to tolerate this stuff more and more, and even the younger generation after that have learned to tolerate it just as much. It's now as normal as fuck, but back then it was like, what the fuck? This is crazy. I mean, this is like when you saw the first gay wedding on TV,
I mean, you have to
first gay kiss.
For us, like, we play video games. If I see some, like, human dude making out with, like, a blue chick, doesn't bother me at all. But back then, like, the 1960s, I mean, that might have been a huge freaking deal. Like, I don't see it as a problem.
See, I just don't think
personally, I really want to be a blue chick. Does anybody know any girls?
No, hold on. I have a question for you. In Mass Effect, which one was your blue chick?
I never went for the blue chick. I always went for the yeoman. And I always played a female character to have lesbian sex.
No, you had to go for the blue chick, man.
That's boring.
That's boring as shit. Congratulations, although I did go for the tattooed chick in the second one.
Yeah.
Chambers was sexy, man.
I don't give a shit. Chambers is the...
It's over. It's alright.
Listen. Chambers is the chick that you bone off to the side while you got your main squeeze over here. The blue chick.
That's right.
But is your main squeeze blue?
Well, it could have been. I mean, playing the scene that I was playing a female character, I just had so many options available to me. She was like one of the only ones. And I think the most interesting one is you have that one, and if you play the male character, one of your ultimate choices is in part 3, you had that one dude that couldn't stop reminding you every fucking time you talked to him that he was gay.
Oh, yeah. What was his name? James? I think?
Yeah, James Vega.
Yeah, James. James Vega was a cool fucking character.
He was cool. It was like every goddamn conversation was like, yes, my boyfriend died. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck that your boyfriend's dead, damn it. You told me like 15 times.
I want everyone here to know that I'm blue dabba-dee dabba-da. I just want you to know. I blew at my house with the blue little window.
I've seen your house is a lie.
See, VD here is scaring me now.
Listen, that's 90's nostalgia, right? I was taking it back to the earlier conversation.
So we're making it official that...
So in a few minutes we're going to start listening to Numa videos, right?
And it appears that way.
I mean, yeah, let's do it. I'm game.
Hey, your game?
No, last time I did anything with Numa or anything of that nature, I got a flag on my channel, so I can't do that shit here.
Don't get our channel flag.
We're fledgling, so we're not on that level yet. We're absolutely screw us up.
Don't worry, we'll work work on it. It'll grow. Trust me, this will fester like a disease. It'll grow.
Like
BD.
I think Whiskey's right, man. We're getting way the fuck off topic. You got what else you guys talk about this contract?
It's good. I feel it. We're all like just there.
Yes, but let's talk about our favorite captains, which in my case obviously is Picard. I stated it at the beginning.
Picard.
Yeah, Hellstorm. Yeah,
I'm with him.
Yeah.
Whiskey here.
BD. What about you?
You know what? I have to agree. It's Picard. It's 1,000% Picard.
Picard was a great captain in the series, and so was Kirk. But I always loved Janeway. I don't know why.
I knew you were gonna go there. I really did. I had a feeling.
I mean,
she's definitely my number 2.
She's definitely the most respectable because she actually went from the science class instead of she went through irregular means to get to her rank.
Right. Instead of going through command class.
Right.
Her crew, she took a crew that was lost in a completely different era of space and in seemingly impossible odds. Granted, it took them a while, but she got them home.
Wait.
It was a different perspective than any other captain had experienced as far as TV show.
Let's be fair here. She got them home, but a lot of people died along the way, and then she went back in time to bring them back.
And how many red shirts died because of Kirk's insanity and ridiculousness?
All sorts of red shirts.
Yeah, red shirts.
How many episodes of Star Trek the original series? Because I'm pretty sure at least one red shirt per episode.
I mean, that ship had to be running out of low levels.
Oh, Kirk's ego.
And
Spock
fucking blue
was the
chicks.
search for Spock.
And
Episode
sometimes
Star Trek 3
chicks.
pretty much said,
ends up
"Oh, by the
sticking.
way, this is Kirk's ego, and everybody can die. It's fine because that's what people want."
And fucking green chicks. Don't forget that.
Can I at least address one thing? This is one problem I always had about Star Trek, and it's not something I ever noticed until I was in the military and went to the Navy. Understandably, in the Navy, officers were ensigns. In Star Trek, there was no low-level grunt Navy rating guys. It was always everybody was an 01 officer and up on the ship. There was nobody that was an E6 or E3 or any shit like that. Everybody was an 01 and up.
Wesley.
What that mean? Wesley wasn't even a goddamn. He was like a midshipman, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, he was. He was
And
an ensign.
Will Wheaton can go suck a dick. That's not a Will Wheaton is literally fucking ass, that motherfucker. He fucking blocked me on Twitter, for fuck's sake.
Wow. Because you're so important.
He fucking blocked. He uses the GG auto blocker or whatever the fuck it's called. That dumb stupid shit.
All right. Well, we're not bringing politics.
He blocked Felicia Day or something.
I choose to believe that he did that intentionally. I don't want to accept that was a program that did that.
I choose to believe that he intentionally saw your name. And he said Lord Nurgle. That fucker.
No,
Look.
not that guy.
Look.
I did
Shit
say
about
some
our
pretty
people.
choice things to him about the stupidity that he
It
spent
was like,
on the
what?
internet.
What do you mean Wesley Crusher wasn't awesome in the 4th season? Done.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's sick and tired of hearing "Shut up, Wesley," because everyone just tweets that to him when he says something. Shut up, Wesley.
You know what's crazy is though that Wesley Crusher in the books was made out to be so incredibly important, and the show was just nah, it's what we're done.
Yeah.
I had heard.
Give a shit.
Now I don't know this for a fact, but I had heard that on the set, Will Wheaton was pretty much hated by people. Nobody liked him, and even Patrick Stewart couldn't fucking stand him. And that was part of the reason why he was kind of booted from the show, was because the cast couldn't stand him and the series hated him too. And the fans of the series hated him.
He was never an important character. He was never every time I saw Wesley, I'm like, what the fuck is this little shit doing now? How's he gonna fuck this up now?
He's an idiot. I couldn't stand his character.
Listen, I'm just gonna say, I had a huge crush on Beverly Crusher as a kid.
Who was Beverly
Yeah,
Crusher? Was
that
that the
was
mom?
That was
She was
Next
cute.
Generation Doc.
But I more so had a crush on Deanna Troy. Not gonna lie, man.
I had a crush on both
That
of them.
woman is
Counselor
so
Troy.
hot.
Okay, I got it. Troy was pretty hot. I will admit that.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll be right back, so I gotta go take care of something.
He's dropping the news. But on a tangent, I'll just go ahead and throw this out there. Does anybody remember, because we were on 90's nostalgia earlier, I don't know why this correlates, but it does. So, for some strange reason, the entire cast of The Next Generation latched onto a really big chunk of 90's nostalgia, which was the Disney Channel, well, not the Disney Channel, but the Disney had like the Disney Afternoon. Do you remember that? Like, I don't remember what channel it was on stuff, but they had like the cartoons, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember Gargoyles?
Oh my god!
Yes,
Oh,
Gargoyles. Did you realize that every Star Trek, every major The Next Generation character was on Gargoyles?
Yup.
Whoa!
They were
I
all
forgot
voice
about
actors.
Yeah, they were all voice actors on there.
Yes. So the main female, Demona, the main villain female, was Deanna Troy.
Yup.
Holy shit.
Xanatos, the guy who created, like, who basically woke up the gargoyles from their slumber, like, he was the rich
Magic.
American dude. That was Riker. That was it Jonathan Frakes? So
Yeah.
William Riker. Then you had Puck, who was, like, the magician, who was from the Shakespearean story. I don't remember, it was A Midsummer Night's Dream. But he was, like, a magician, and he could do all kinds of tricks. Puck. That was Data, Brent Spiner.
Yeah.
Dude, almost like a huge portion of the Next Generation cast was on that show, including Michael Dorn, who played Worf. He was one of the gargoyles. I mean, it was a bunch of guys. For some reason, they all were like, "Hey, let's go do this Disney show." For some strange reason.
But since I'm not saying that we're digressing away from Star Trek, but nevertheless, I want to talk about Street Sharks.
All right, it's 90's nostalgia. I'm cool with it.
I loved Street Sharks.
I did.
I thought
it was a guilty pleasure.
it was actually
It was
kind of a
so
terrible
stupid,
show.
but it was
a
good.
kind of a terrible show, but I loved it because they are sharks who kick ass. You don't need anything more.
It was late 90's Ninja Turtle nostalgia.
Yeah.
That's what that.
I mean, it's the same concept as why Sharknado was so popular. It's because it's so ridiculous and it
Sharks.
has sharks. Okay? That's all it was. And you called it Street Sharks.
They had rollerblades, man.
Yeah,
They had
did.
rollerblades.
I mean, Street
That was
Sharks.
like the coolest thing in 1996.
Street Sharks were incredible to us back then.
Let's think about this. Do you remember 1996? Like, what came out? Like,
Yeah,
the
the
Mighty
Attitude
Ducks
Era
just came
of
out.
WWE.
Street Sharks had just
WWE
came out. For some
1996.
reason, like, street hockey was, like, cool. I had, like, my first pair of rollerblades.
I had my first pair of
Hold on.
1996 was the time, if I'm not mistaken, Marilyn Manson's Antichrist Superstar came out. I honestly think that's when that album came out.
Are you saying that's when our society went south? Because I believe.
Let me double check.
No, I'm just saying that's when I believe that album came out. It came out October 8th, 1996. Because I remember the movie, the album had a song on it called 1996, which was really fucking cool. But that's what I remember the most from like the mid 90s on up is I remember Marilyn Manson because that's all I used to listen to growing up. I was the goth kid.
You're still the goth kid. It's okay.
I don't mind being the goth kid. Goth is awesome now, and you're older because nobody just thinks you're crazy anymore. They just think you're just in a midlife crisis.
For 40 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being the 40-year-old goth. Okay.
There is a problem with being the 40-year-old virgin.
Hold on, since we're still on the 90s, Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, yes.
The
Wait,
cartoon.
No.
Super Mario movie for the game.
Oh
What?
God,
No.
that never
Okay.
happened.
Wait. Hellstorm, fucking Desperado, y'all stop for a minute. I need y'all to understand that Nurgle has this weird obsession with the Mario movie. Hold on, Nurgle.
Wait.
Well, hold on.
I like it, man.
I know. He will defend it to the nth degree. So we're all going to say
hold
that
on.
we hate it.
Hold on. I'm gonna go ahead and agree with Nurgle on this. Listen, I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why.
Like John Leguizamo.
Let's go ahead and look back at the 90s. One, in that era, movies sucked. And you didn't have faithful adaptations of anything. You took a big concept of something, you threw some names on it, you threw some big subjects, and it worked. The Mario Brothers movie, if it had come out probably 2 years before, probably would have worked. It didn't because at the time people realized, hey, wait a minute, this isn't so good. But listen, let's pay attention to what did work. Dennis Hopper as Bowser or Koopa or whatever the hell it was because it wasn't really fully established.
Well, he was King Koopa in the movie. He was King Koopa. But
Dennis Hopper, amazing. All right? Bob Hoskins as Mario, inspired. Inspired choice.
yeah,
Okay.
considering Bob Hoskins now look, I liked the movie, okay? Don't get me wrong. The reason I liked the movie was because when I was a kid, I enjoyed watching it as a kid. And I've enjoyed watching it today with my kids because my kids really liked it. It was very much a kid's movie.
Yeah.
It didn't even, the thing is had it been a movie that it wasn't called Mario Brothers and off on its own thing, it would never have made any money. It would never even be remembered today. Even though it still would have been alright if it had its own thing. But you gotta look at that movie and understand, it was the very first video game movie ever made. It was probably the reason why most video game movies don't get made today. But it was the first of its kind, because after that, then they started just like punching them out left and right in other places too. Because I remember,
Tomb
what
Raider.
was the other? Tomb Raider was, oh God.
Whoa.
Tomb Raider 1 was bad, but Tomb Raider 2 was actually decent.
The Tomb Raider movies were worthwhile because, I mean, you know, we got to see
Well, that's
a
back
hot
when
chick
we-
shoot weapons.
That's
I
right.
mean, that's all I really expected to see.
Well, that was back when Angelina Jolie was actually hot. Now
yeah.
she just,
Yeah, really hot.
Whoa.
now she's just ugly looking and scary.
Right. Listen, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and defend Angela.
There's nothing to defend. She's no longer attractive. It's done. It's over. I'm sorry. It's over.
Yeah, Billy Bob had her at her best
I
day.
never
That was
found
as simple as
Angelina
that.
Jolie to be physically attractive. Let's go ahead and be honest
Whoa,
right there.
whoa.
I
now
really never found her to
Are
be
you
physically
gay?
attractive.
Is this you coming out of the closet?
No.
Is this your digital way
The
of
only
coming
reason
out of the
that I
closet?
find
Are we talking
Angelina
like-
Jolie attractive is because one, she's just kind of feisty, and I think that's hot. But she's just like skinny feisty, or like I have dreads for no reason feisty and gone in 60 seconds.
Did you not think of her as hot as hackers?
If you guys want us to talk
Hackers,
about
bro.
90s stuff, I'll bring up something from the 90s. That
Hackers?
pretty much made all of us go into puberty.
You talking about hackers?
Yes.
No.
She was hot as fucking hackers.
No.
She was really hot.
Piper's Catwoman.
Yes, dear
Yes.
God.
Yes, dear
That-
God.
That is what made all nerds
That-
around the world pop
The
on.
only Catwoman done right.
What is this between my legs right
Listen,
here?
let's just go ahead and say that if who was the other girl who tried to be Catwoman?
You talking about
Halle Berry?
Well, Halle Berry didn't look. She
No,
looked
before Halle Berry. It was this girl that she was in Ace Ventura.
Oh shit.
Oh my God, I remember her name.
Courtney Cox?
No, the other one, the one that was Einhorn. Einhorn is a man.
Oh, I don't know her name.
I forgot her name, but she apparently was like in the running to play Catwoman, and like wanted the role so bad that she like went on a talk show. I don't know if it was like David Letterman or Jay Leno, and like was talking like Eartha Kitt the whole time, and she thought that was gonna get her the role, and they were like, yeah, this chick is totally nuts. Like we're not hiring her, and so they basically changed the character to Michelle Pfeiffer because in the comic book she's not a blonde. She was never some sort of like weird secretary. They just completely changed the character because they wanted to get away from whatever it is that chick was doing. And when they created that version of Selena Kyle and adapted it into Batman the Animated Series, it was like, I mean, they struck gold. They really did.
Well, the animated series was very, like we've all said, it was like one of the darkest kids cartoon shows ever fucking made. Like, for a kids show, that thing was dark.
It was dark.
Especially Mr. Freeze's
It had
story.
Tim Burton all over it. But I think that's kind of where, like, in the visual media, in like the TV and the movie world, where Batman finally went in a darker direction and embraced its actual roots, because Batman had always been a very dark story. And then we had, and then like in the 80s, you know, you had Alan Moore and all these other great writers take on Batman and turn it into something that's far darker. And I don't think Batman's ever been anything less darker in the comic book sense. It's always stayed pretty adult-like. And now when you look at the animated series, it was just kind of a reflection of what the comics actually were. And they embraced it, and it gave birth to one of the coolest coolest villains we've ever seen, which was Harley Quinn. And and that actually transfers from the animated series into the comics.
Okay, well, good point, Nurgle. We're just about out of time, guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and
That's the thing.
Desperado, we had this conversation.
Look, people don't like to watch 3 or 4 hour videos. Trust me, I know.
Okay, so Nurgle, any last points on either Star Trek or fucking 90s nostalgia?
Well, we didn't touch on it, but I do want to say Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
Dude.
There's all fighting game fans out there. Street Fighter fucking 2.
Oh my goodness.
All of
Don't forget Mortal Kombat.
Okay, Street Fighter 2. Okay, Hellstorm, any last points?
Let's see. I guess I'll start with Mortal Kombat, the cartoon.
Oh God! Now he's digging up some brains.
Let's not forget that. Never forget.
Oh God! While we're at it, why don't we pull out Sub-Zero mythologies too?
Oh, shit.
We talked about that earlier. God, that game sucked.
So bad.
Or
So
Special
great.
Forces on PlayStation 1.
No, wait. But didn't the show, the cartoon, the Mortal Kombat show, at least like take off from where the movie was?
I don't remember.
God.
Worse.
Listen,
Like I think it went one season and then it was canceled.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that cartoon show was at least better than Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and throw that out.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And even Conquest was better than Annihilation.
Conquest was 1,000 times better than Annihilation.
Okay, so that's it, Hellstorm?
Oh yeah, and Nurgle brought up a good point about Batman being dark. The cartoon series leading to darker storylines for the comics, and it also did the same thing with the cartoons. Because if you watched Batman Beyond, there were people dying after like 2 episodes.
Well, actually, you just reminded me of something that I wanted to put out. There's an echo there. Okay. Yeah, you guys got an echo. I don't know who it is. All right, it's good now.
Blame it on whiskey.
Well, it's good now, but there's something you brought up there when you said about it being darker. And if you think about it, the animated series, and then you have the Arkham games, like Arkham Asylum, Night, and City, you know, those 3 games, they're always Arkham Origins. If you really look at it, because they brought back all of the guys, or the folks from the animated series to do all the voice work and everything for the Arkham games. If you really think about it, though, the Arkham games were kind of like the continuation of the animated series, just in the darker format that we grew up watching. That's all. But that sorry, I had to bring that up. Go ahead.
Okay, so
That's it for me.
that's it. Desperado, you got anything left?
2 things. One, I really like to just go ahead and highlight the fact that with Batman the Animated Series in the 90s, like Paul Dini, like they really need to bring him in for the whole, for like the DC extended universe, like on the films. Paul Dini knows what he's doing.
Oh God, yes.
Yes, Paul Dini knows his Batman and or DC stuff.
No, Paul Dini. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish it.
No,
I'll
go ahead.
take a minute.
You obviously like. Go ahead, go.
No, Paul Dini is a phenomenal writer, and they would benefit so greatly if they brought Paul Dini in to talk about or to do stuff with the DC Universe stuff, because I mean that man actually made me enjoy reading a comic book about Zatanna, because Zatanna's really not an interesting character.
No, not at all.
But when Paul Dini wrote Zatanna, he did a great job writing.
You know what he's doing. You definitely know what he's doing. The other thing is, I really gotta pee, so yeah, we can go ahead and do this thing.
All right. So that's our boys, Hellstorm, Nurgle. This is your boys from Compl3te Geek. Guess we're going ahead and signing off. Adios.
Yay! Fuck off and thanks for all the fish.
That's your sign off, okay? That's yours. Don't do that
You
on
said
ours.
goodbye, so I'm gonna say at the end of it, we're all saying goodbye at the same time.
Dick.